Good Tuesday evening. Welcome to another edition of the Sideline Junkies Tuesday Night Flight. It's me, the big guy KG, joined by the man, none other than the boss BJ, who keeps the lights on, keeps us in furniture, pays the guys in the truck, have been paying them very handsomely, and he has his Sideline Junkies t-shirt on. Nice. Also, we had the incomparable, the undefeated, the unimaginable, the immovable object, the irresistible force, Bianca Belair lover, the Midnight Rider.
Thought you'd appreciate that last night.
Oh man, I always appreciate Bianca Belair. Like, she is my girl, man. I could go on and on about her.
You got a power 25. You got a coach's pole.
It's about a good 15. I ain't gonna say 25. But how you fellas feeling tonight?
Good, man.
Good, absolutely great, man.
That is good, man. Unfortunately, we have to start this show off on a somber note. News came down today that the great Willis Reed has passed away. For those of you that are not familiar with Willis Reed, New York Knicks, big man, center. Unfortunately, he's most famous for, what was that, game 2 in the first championship? Hold on, let me make sure I got that right.
I thought it was
NBA Finals.
game 5 or 6.
Some
of the one where he walks out.
Yep. And he hit the first 2 shots. And then he didn't play anymore for the rest of the game. That's what he's most famous for to our generation, because that's what we knew him for. But you get older and you know him for more. I mean, he's a Hall of Famer. One of the best centers to ever play the game. 6'10", out of Grambling State, second round pick by the New York Knicks. Had a 10-year playing career. From 64 to 74. He even coached the Knicks in 77, 78. He coached at Creighton. He was an assistant for the Atlanta Hawks and the Sacramento Kings. And he coached the New Jersey Nets in 88 and 89. He also was an executive for the New Jersey Nets when they ran to the finals back-to-back years. So, two-time champion. Two-time finals MVP. Most valuable player, 7-time NBA All-Star, All-Star Game MVP, NBA, All-NBA first team, All-NBA second team 4 times, All-Defensive Team, Rookie of the Year, All-Rookie Team, 50th and 75th anniversary team, and his number 19 is retired by the Knicks. He averaged 18 and 12. Damn, he better be a Hall of Famer. I mean, there should be. I don't see Hall of Fame on this list. Wait a minute. Willis Reed is a Hall of Famer. Yes. Basketball, it's not lit up.
I thought so.
Yeah, basketball, it's not lit. Normally it's lit up gold on Wikipedia, but it's not lit up gold. Basketball Hall of Fame as a player, and the College Basketball Hall of Fame in 2006. I know this may not be 100% our generation, gentlemen, but your thoughts on one Willis Reed?
Well,
I mean,
I think it's part of what you just talked about. I mean, it's the stories, it's the coming out of the locker room, finishing the game. I remember him with the Hawks, because I think he was the Hawks when Tree Rollins was there. So I thought they were like brothers or cousins or whatever, because they looked alike or they seemed like it. Wasn't he a head coach at one point too in the NBA?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Who did he coach?
The New Jersey Nets. He coached the Knicks for a little bit too.
Who else?
He coached the Knicks as well.
Okay, that's what it was. All right. So yeah, I remember those stretches. And then after that, he was just always kind of like the legacy guy between that got you to Patrick Ewing. Like it was kind of like it was him, then it was Patrick. So if you were like on the Knicks lineage of centers, that's kind of how that process went. But I think he was always around the game. He was a contributor, solid contributor. The fact you said he coached Creighton kind of caught me off guard, but he definitely had to be a Hall of Famer. That Knicks team was kind of stacked. Wasn't that Monroe and company?
Second championship was Earl the Pearl because they got him from the Bullets for that second championship.
And there's guys like Dave DeBusschere, Tom Bradley, and all those guys.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right. Cool.
Guys that never get no shine.
I gotta go to my historian because
Well, those are guys that never get no shine either. Fallback baby Dick Barnett was on that team. You know why they called him that? I go ahead, B. I'll tell that story later.
No, I was gonna say that's what this new generation call the plumbers and the electricians. That's why they don't get no play. But legends will never die. And I'll say this, off of what I just said, it's just one of those things you got to teach your kids the history. And Willis Reed, is part of that NBA history. And the things he did for the Knicks and the NBA won't be forgotten. Definitely rest in peace. It's you're losing a lot of legends getting older. It's crazy all across the board with all the sports. So definitely hard to see them go because they were, Willis Reed wasn't a big part of my childhood, but your childhood idols, you know what I'm saying? Watching them pass away, and it's like, man, the people that watch Willis Reed, they can remember where they were when he walked back out, to the court. They can remember where they were when the Knicks won a championship. It's things you don't forget. So you got to cherish those memories, and you gotta live like it is no tomorrow, man. You gotta enjoy this stuff, man. It's not guaranteed. So rest in peace to the legend, though, man.
Agreed. And I will say this: working for ESPN Zone, we remember if anybody ever been to NBA Tonight at ESPN Zone, you had where the most iconic shots took place in basketball. You had Jordan's corner jumper, Magic's hook in the lane, Jordan's final shot, Willis Reed, where he took his first shot in that game in 70. You had those, so you had to know those moments because those moments were drilled into us. And Midnight Rider said something about those Knicks teams. They had Willis Reed and Phil Jackson was on that 70 team as well. Walt Clyde Frazier, Dave DeBusschere, Bill Bradley. And like I said, Dick Barnett, fallback baby. They called him that because when he shot the ball, all he said was fall back. You ain't got to go for no rebound because it was all money. Another dude with a vicious shot that he never gets the talk when you talk about great players. But Willis Reed, not only what he did as a player, but what he meant to the NBA community, and Perry checking in, New York Knicks fan, RIP to the captain. Indeed, what he meant to the Knicks, what he meant to that area, what he meant to the 70s period, and what he did with that next generation. You can't replace that. And I think about it. I mean, look at the legends that we've lost in just a year's time. You lost Bill Russell. We lost Bob Lanier. Now we lose Willis Reed. It's like guys that I've read about and watched film on. Now they're starting to pass away because they're getting older. Rest in peace to Willis Reed. Man. Running to the next topic. Sweet 16 is up. And what's crazy? My bracket's busted. I don't know about everybody else's, but
What bracket? What bracket?
You don't see, y'all act like I didn't do a bracket. Why y'all doing me dirty, man?
What bracket are you talking about?
My CBS bracket.
When I go on CBS, I see BJ's bracket.
Yeah, I mean, I see Midnight Rider. I just don't see. I mean, I see the team name, Sideline Junkies private pool.
Right.
But I just don't.
So y'all really don't see my bracket?
I'm about to send you a screenshot. You're not in this. You're not in this.
Yeah, you're not.
No, you're not a part of the team, man.
Oh wow!
After you encourage everybody to go on, no you.
That's no good. Okay. Well,
it's like that. I do. ESPN where somehow magically your picks didn't go through.
It wasn't. You know what? We're not gonna do this. We're not gonna do this. And he's absolutely correct. My picks are not even in there. What the fuck?
It's like you didn't. You did your picks in a parallel universe.
It always feels like that.
Where you're in the parallel universe, you're the small guy, KG. You're only like 5'8". That's where you did your picks at.
Oh man, y'all always giving me a hard time. But however, looking at this Sweet 16, Alabama versus San Diego, Houston versus Miami, Xavier versus Texas. I think the closest thing we have to a Deborah Cox matchup is Creighton versus Princeton, because nobody had them being there. Tennessee versus Florida Atlantic, Kansas State versus Michigan State, UCLA versus Gonzaga, and finally UConn versus Arkansas. Gentlemen, I know probably a lot of these teams are a surprise, but out of the 16 teams left, and I know this is for you, Midnight Rider, is Alabama still your favorite? And BJ, who is your favorite running into this Sweet 16 weekend?
So yeah, it's still Alabama. The only difference now is Alabama has to beat Michigan State because the Tom Izzo factor is in play now. So the only thing that really makes me change is it makes me take Kansas State out of the fold like I had them before, because Michigan State's playing some really good ball right now, and they look like they have one of those runs where they want to get to the Final Four to make things happen. So that's that. I think the team that surprised me was Arkansas, because Arkansas looked like an old Arkansas team where they got after it, they defended, they extended the defense. I expected Kansas to lose, so it didn't matter who they lost to, but yeah, Arkansas impressed me when I was watching that ball game.
Well, I need Miami to win because that's the only thing keeping my bracket together. But I'm like the Midnight Rider. I remember those old Arkansas teams when I was watching them play, and they are really good. But if I had to pick one team that I'm leaning towards, man, it's probably gonna have to be Alabama, because they proved to Maryland that they weren't on their level. So I mean, the tests for them are going to come stronger than Maryland, of course, in the next round, this coming round and the Sweet 16 the next round. But I think they handled their matchup in the Sweet 16. And then like the Midnight Rider said, you got the Tom Izzo factor. They're so well coached, and it just seems like Tom Izzo, Michigan State, sometimes they're the favorite. Sometimes they just come out of nowhere and make a run, and they become the strongest team. They become the team you have to beat. So, but I'm going to lean on Alabama. I hate to do it because they beat my Terps, but I'm going to lean on Alabama.
I'm going to go a little different, and I'm going to lean actually on Princeton. I got Princeton going at least to the Final Four. I don't know why, but my wife, the only person I know that had Princeton going this far. Don't know what she saw. Don't know how she did it. But damn it, it's there. Princeton is my favorite now to see how far they can go. UConn.
So is Pat Carrill visiting small guy KG in the alternate universe and whispering sweet nothings in your ear? Is that what's going on?
Hey, look, my thing is that offense is unstoppable, man. It always has been. It always has been unstoppable. I will say that. So I don't know, man. I'm rolling with Princeton. I got to. It's probably the closest I'll get to JT3 Georgetown. So there's that. Don't shake your head like that, man. I'm allowed to live in the moment sometimes.
Are you setting up the next segment?
Yeah, I'm getting ready to. I was trying to get to the women's one, but somebody said something. I was watching what's her name? Monica McNutt on ESPN. Was it yesterday or was it Monday? Yeah, yesterday was Monday. I was watching her yesterday, and she was talking about the only team that could probably dethrone South Carolina in the women's tournament was Stanford. But Stanford got their butts kicked. They're done.
It's Maryland.
And if the way I got that bracket set up, I got them meeting in the Final Four.
Maryland's the only team that can, because when they played Maryland early in the season, Maryland was probably a shell of the team that they are right now. So watching Maryland play, I think Maryland's going to be able to give them a ball game more than they expect. And I think the other factor they're going to have is because the way South Carolina handled them early in the season, they might come in with a little extra confidence, a little overconfidence, and that might have a bigger effect on the ball game because you knew one of the number ones on the women's side was going to go down. So you just had to figure out who it was. And then once Stanford lost, kind of played itself out. And, UConn's still going to be dangerous with the shooters. So it's going to be interesting.
Well.
And then who beat Texas last night? Was that Louisville?
I don't know. I missed that.
Nah, because there's a scene at the end of the ball game where they're going to tap hands or, how you do the post game and there was a little confrontation. I want to say it was Louisville and Texas. And, of course, Coach Sidney Carter. Need I say more? But, Yeah,
it was Louisville and Texas.
Yeah. And Louisville girl, I think, did a good job of not being caught up in the moment, not letting whatever the conversation was that the girl was trying to do affect her and affect the post game. So I really did like that.
But she said after the game, it was all in the heat of the moment. It wasn't nothing. Just leave it at that. It was just all in the heat of the moment, and it happens. But what you got to say as far as the women go, BJ?
I think he stepped off. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I'm back. This is me being 100% biased. Lady Terps all the way. I don't care about no other team. I don't care what nobody else doing. I don't care about South Carolina, UConn. Give me Brenda Freeze and the Lady Terps. That's who I'm rolling with.
And see, that's where I'm conflicted at. I am very conflicted because I love Brenda Freeze, but I've loved Dawn Staley longer.
So then you're not conflicted.
Yeah, you're not. You're not.
Well, I am, but because I love Dawn Staley.
This is the guy with 20 favorite All My Bays WWE female wrestlers. He's talking about he conflicted.
Well, it ain't just WWE. I got a couple independents. I got a couple.
You're always conflicted.
I'm really not. But you got to understand, I love Dawn Staley as a player.
Ooh, whether it was college, that one up.
Yeah. Well, I loved her in every aspect of the word. Like, I had posters of Dawn Staley hanging on my wall.
Okay.
I used to date a girl named Dawn that actually looked like her for that very reason.
Don't tell your wife that, man.
Ah, man, I was 15 years old. I was 15. This is New York City, baby. This is New York City. We went out a couple times and, it was cool. I was like, you look like Dawn Staley. She said, yeah, I kind of figured that's why you with me. Yeah, that's it. She was cool with it. She could ball, too. She could ball. But moving right along, I enjoyed watching Dawn Staley's career. But Brenda Freeze, that's home, man. That's home. That's where the conflict is because you want to see if the Lady Terps bring home a championship, and let's say in some stroke of genius, the Caps win. Then
Caps ain't winning.
I said
Caps ain't
stroke of genius.
No. That's a wing, a prayer, and a multiverse. That's the only way. Caps.
But BJ wouldn't let me have my Titletown USA. My Titletown USA when The Valor won. What was it? Valor, Terps, Mystics, Nationals. He would not let me have it. He would not let me have Titletown USA.
No, sir. What do we talk about? What does
Wow.
Shaq say? What does Shaq say all the time? Consistency. When these teams win multiple titles and they establish themselves, because you see the Nationals ain't even they ain't defended, they ain't sniffed nothing since that.
Yeah,
Neither has the Mystics.
and that's true. And the Valor are no longer a squad. I mean, so
if you get back to back with the Mystics, you get another title from the Capitals within that 2-3 year span. You know what I'm saying? The Commanders do something. We know the Wizards ain't doing nothing, absolutely nothing. So that's out of the question. But no title count here.
Can we throw that in? Throw that in later. Let's throw because I got something to ask you on that.
okay. Next segment. Ed Cooley is officially head Hoya now. He is the new coach on the hill. He was announced yesterday as the new coach. He comes in from Providence, formerly of Fairfield. He led Fairfield to a CIT second round, NIT second round. Then he moved over to Providence, and he won NIT quarterfinal. He's taken Providence to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 straight NCAA tournaments before they went to the NIT in 2018 and 19. And he went to the Sweet 16 with Providence last season. And they lost in the first round this season. I wanted to see how far he could go. His overall record as a coach at Providence is 242 and 153. But he wins in the division, 118 and 99. Now he moves over to the Big East. And my question to you, gentlemen, I know how I feel. His overall record is 334 and 222.
That sounds like Craig Esherick, Patrick Ewing, JT3, and a couple other coaches' win totals combined. My bad.
It's always gotta do it. Always gotta do it. Can't never just let me be great. That's all. Let me be fucking great.
I didn't say JT Jr.
Because you can't.
Right. See, I'm fair.
You can't.
I mean, that's fair, man. It's fair. It's what he's saying is fair.
It's really not fair because he says these things because he wants to get a rise out of me. But anyway, before I answer, let me ask you, gentlemen, with the team that's constructed, now you have the transfer portal. How well do you think he does in his first campaign next season?
I don't know, man. I mean, it's hard. Do they not have the players, or was Patrick Ewing that bad of a coach? That's how bad things are right now. It's just kind of like when you have an NFL team. Let's go with the home team. You can't really gauge the offense because you don't have the person behind center. And it's kind of the same thing with Georgetown. You know, they might have a piece, but him coming in, I think he got a lot of things to rework, to get his people in, to get his type of players in, and implement his system. You know, I would say, based on the success he has, they would probably be a bubble team, maybe a playing team, or get invited at least to the NIT and not just be completely irrelevant and getting dogged in the division in their conference. That's what.
Well, you can't get dogged any worse. You've been dogged the last 2 years,
and that's the thing. I mean, it can always get worse.
237.
Yeah, I mean, it could always get worse. We can get to naming people that wore number 40 jerseys in a couple of years. I mean, it can always get worse. So, I mean, that's the bar right now. Unfortunately, can you do better than that in your conference? And I think
he wins 3 games in the conference, they might put a bronze statue out in front of
Hey, and that's what it's looking like for Georgetown. Like I said, unfortunately, I know they tried to go to the Big John tree a couple times, and it's unfortunate it didn't work out because you root for those guys. We grew up on those guys that the last however many head coaches that they went through. But it's we said it during the season before we knew Pat was going to get fired. It was time for a change, and it was time to go in a different direction to try to get this program back to where Big John had it. But baby steps. Let's get them. Let's get some. Hopefully some players want to come play for him in the transfer portal, and he can make a quicker turnaround. But let's just start with getting back to being relevant in the conference in the Big East.
No, I totally agree, and I think he has to have one of those Dion speeches. He needs to say, "I'm bringing my bags," and they Louis. Like he got to bring a couple guys with him. I know. I think he had a kid at Providence named Bridges that's supposed to be in the portal, and it sounds like that kid's going to end up here with him. But I thought, to be honest, and like to take all the troll out of what I've been doing, and to be very serious in this moment, I thought Cooley was the only guy that you could actually like replace and put in this position, and it still feel like it was like an influence from Big John because he reminds me the most of a Big John. He's an advocate enough where it's not just about getting these kids in; it's about taking care of their futures and making sure they're better men than they are anything else. First and foremost, before it becomes ball players. Then the second and the third thing that he has that maybe Patrick didn't have is the relationships with some of the grassroots coaches. I would implore you guys to check out. There's an interview on the Medhurst show, Pete Medhurst and Chris Russell with this guy Marcus Washington, who's a real big guy in the local area, and he talked about Cooley, and he actually talked about Willard at Maryland and how they can actually make a serious change the next 2 to 3 years and have a heavy impact on kids staying in the area because they have such great relationships with some of the grassroots coaches in this area. And I wouldn't be surprised if there was a move to get one of the guys like Mike Jones or somebody else like that on the staff, so that way we can keep that local AAU tree coming through the area, because a lot of teams do that. I mean, it goes all the way back to when Jalen Rose went to Michigan and his AAU coach or his coach was on the bench. It's not a new practice, but it's something that I think Georgetown needs to try to adapt and adopt and figure out how they can make that work for them going forward.
And see, you talk about this practice of getting with the AAU coaches and getting through the, creating a pipeline. And I always said that's the one thing Gary Williams didn't do at Maryland is he didn't create that pipeline because he didn't want to work with the AAU coaches. He
refused to work with the AAU coaches.
Absolutely. Then you had when he refused to do that, they had the ban on Baltimore. Baltimore wouldn't send none of their players to Maryland. Joe Smith, not Joe Smith. God, who am I thinking of? Keith Booth. Keith Booth was a local kid. He wound up going. They wound up getting Joe Smith.
Kid.
Huh?
Booth was a Baltimore kid.
Yeah, and he was one of the ones that actually broke that barrier to come down from Baltimore and go to UMD. Big John always had Baltimore. Wingate,
Reggie
Williams. Yeah, both of them, 2 players from the greatest high school basketball team of all time. The Dunbar Poets up in Baltimore with Muggsy Bogues and Reggie Lewis. Guys went 29-1 one season, won the state, and then 30-0 the next season. Like the dudes was like that. But I always said, hey, if you have to get a coach on, an AAU coach on your staff, but it's not about getting these kids to play for you. It's about getting them in school, getting them an education, because once basketball ends, they have to have something after that. And if you can give them something after that, because It brings it right back to Big John. He used to always give the speech with the deflated basketball and say that's what it is. What is it called? I think it's called 7 pounds of air. I think that's what it's called.
Sounds about right.
And he gave that speech that you got to have something after basketball. If we get back to those fundamentals, not just at Georgetown, not just at Maryland, but everywhere, you're going to find out these kids are going to be more successful. But on the grassroots level, you have to teach these kids that they have to be coachable. The parents have to stay out of it. That's number one. The parents have to stay out of it.
Oh, you living the pipe dream, bro.
Oh, yeah, I know I am. But the parents have to stay out of it so these kids can be coachable. You can't make your child, oh, he's supposed to be the star. My child should be starting. And I use this all the time. I'm thinking about my child's brand. Baby, your son's barely averaging 4 points. You're talking about a brand.
We had that conversation before. But,
yeah,
I mean, aside from that, it's something the coach. I heard a coach say this the other day. He said that in today's NCAA, you went from recruiting a kid from his high school career to the day he signed, but now with the transfer portal, you have to recruit this kid every day of the week from the day he steps on campus to make sure he will stay with your program. That's crazy. You can't do that. I mean, I'm not saying you can't do that, but that makes the coaching job tough. And I think you kind of see that some of the old dogs have kind of decided to go home and take their ball with them. Some of the Coach K's and those guys. And that's part of the reason is because now you can't coach the way you want to coach. And I think that was Pat's biggest problem was Pat was trying to coach as a hard-nosed guy, but these kids don't know Pat. These kids didn't grow up on Pat. These kids don't have this great fondness for Patrick Ewing and Hoya Paranoia. They just read about it. And that's so many moons ago for them that it doesn't have context in their lives. So when you get a Mac McClung, you get these guys in here, you get Wahad. Shit, Wahad went from Georgetown to Maryland back to Georgetown. How does that happen? So, I mean, it's just little things that when you start thinking about it, it's just like this, it's not, it shouldn't happen, but it's just a crazy thing where we're at a crazy place in basketball and in sports on a college level that I think they waited too long to get to this point that now they've created chaos and they want to live in their chaos for the next couple of years. And coaches going to cry. You're going to hear Nick crying about everybody else getting kids that he used to get and how everybody can buy kids. Oh, I'm sorry. Allegedly, everybody gets Dodge Chargers, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, whatever the situation is, you know, those things are going to become more prominent. And that's going to be the issue. You know, Eric Dickerson, I'll never forget Trans Am with the T-top.
You know, they gave that to his grandmother. Stop it.
You know, the crazy thing is the same coaches are complaining and crying are the same coaches that wanted to market corner. Okay,
That's true.
The same coaches that took their ball and went home had to market corner because they had the TV time. They could, you know, they were the big program, but the way the landscape has changed over the last couple of years kind of makes it even. You know, because you can get your NIL deal at Georgetown. You don't have to go to Duke. You don't have to go to Alabama to play football. You can go to NC State. You can go to a HBCU and get your NIL deal. You know, you can go to these different places. You got different options now, and that's what it should be about. But like Ryder said, you're gonna have your coaches crying and complaining because guess what? You're not getting the same. You don't have a third string 5-star recruit sitting on your bench. You know, they playing for San Diego State now. They somewhere else. You know, so.
And here's the thing. 2 things. Number one, I wish they bring it back to the old Big East, where it was actually true Big East, and you got that package on Tuesday night or something like that, or you got that package on Thursday
Big
night,
Monday.
something, huh?
It was Big Monday.
Big Monday.
Big Monday is what put the conference on the map. Big
And
Monday, because at that time that was the early 80s, and that's when you had the Villanovas, the Providence, the St. John's, the Georgetown. Like it was almost like 8 of the Pittsburgh, because you can't forget sending home Jerome. But all that stuff was in that mix. And so that was how that conference got shaped. And if you haven't, I know you've seen it, but the 30 for 30 on the Big East,
Requiem for the Big East.
Out there.
Yeah, how it started and everything. And here's my thing. I grew up watching Georgetown basketball in the late 80s, early 90s. So I had an affinity for watching Syracuse and Jim Boeheim. And I watched him, and I watched Billy Owens and Dirk Coleman. And I hated Billy Owens because Billy Owens used to torch Georgetown with Mutombo and Mourning. You know, I remember, Fox used to, wasn't Fox, and it was WTTG, Channel 5, used to have their little montage about the big guy, Othello Harrington.
Incredible shrinking big guy.
Yeah. But the Big O, he was another one. And another big man that doesn't get mentioned when you talk about Georgetown big men. But if they go back to that, but everything's so controlled by money now. Oh, come join our conference. We can give you $70 million right here over 4 years.
It's always been about money, man.
Yeah, but no, it's really about money.
The difference was you had John, you had Chaney, you had the old guys during the 80s with the Prop 48 and all that stuff that they kind of held and played like the guards of this system for a minute. And then, you couldn't steer wrong Dean Smith and those guys and Bobby Knight. So you had guys that helped control the narrative in that time frame. And then now we're at a point where nobody's really controlling the narrative because no one's distinctive enough. And it's not from a control standpoint. It's from a standpoint that they've lost the control. And the biggest mistake that the basketball conference has made was chasing the football money. Once they chase the football money, they weaken their basketball conferences.
I agree with that. And my final thing, you made a comment earlier, so I decided to sit here and do a little digging. Craig Esherick's time in Georgetown, 103 and 74.
Oh, okay.
JT3, his time as a head coach altogether was 346 and 193. So he comes out better than Ed Cooley at this point. And his conference record was 131 and 94. Please stop playing. Stop it. Stop it. Moving on to our final topic. Magic Johnson has entered the chat as part of the group with Josh Harris to buy the Commanders. Even if it's the off season, left hand up. Who are we? The Commanders. I am so happy about that. Think about this. Magic Johnson, whenever he takes over ownership of a team, when he took over ownership of the Dodgers, what was it, 2 years before the Dodgers? And the Dodgers were, it was either 1 or 2 years. They won a championship. He took over one of the soccer teams. They won a championship. Hey, man, give Magic 2 years of ownership, man. I don't know what he does, but he sprinkles a little magic on it, and you get success. I hope he is a part of this ownership group.
Let's not get too overzealous because the Dodgers in that space made the best move you can make, and that's picking up Tampa Bay's guy, Andrew Freeland, as their GM. And then Freeland showed you at Tampa Bay he could, with a postage stamp budget, he could find you talent. And then all of a sudden now I'm in LA and I got a free for all, and LA's just been laying in talent. They got guys layers and layers. They traded us K-Bear Ruiz, and they've got like 3 other catchers that are still in the top 100 prospects. Like they've found a way to layer talent. Is that part magic? Maybe. I don't want to discard that at all. I don't want to take away from that. But like I think the bigger key or the biggest key is who's the guy that this team decides, hey, this is my guy that I'm building the program around. He's gonna make all the decisions. He's picking the head coach. He's picking this, and maybe these conversations have been had because behind closed doors, you know, when some of these people come in and walk the building, they got to tell you, hey, you know, I don't like this structure. You know, we're probably gonna make some changes structurally. If you want to still be head coach here, you gotta be okay with it. You know, so some of these conversations have happened with Ron, but and they won't say it, but it's happened. You know, something's going to be there, and I wouldn't be surprised if something happens once this goes final, that maybe after the draft, you see certain guys leave the program because they're not going to be in the future plans. These owners don't come in. I've put 6, whether it's 5.3, 6.1s, whatever it is, I'm going to have my signature on this program and on this franchise going forward. And I love Magic being involved in this because Magic has the cachet and the charisma to get us certain things. And for all you people that hold out hope for RFK or building on RFK site, that's your guy right there. That's your Moses.
Yeah.
Magic's your Moses to get you to the promised land. The only difference is he gonna see it when it comes to fruition. But Magic Johnson is the guy that can get you back into DC. It ain't gonna be nobody else.
Yeah, Magic Johnson, KG could sweet talk you out of your underpants. That's who you want, and the Midnight Rider's right. But here's the thing: whoever takes over as owner, as the Commanders, whether they have Magic Johnson with them, whether it's Jay-Z, it doesn't matter. Here's the first thing you have to address, and it's a big red alarm with this franchise. Is there was report cards that came out for the franchise. You have to go through here because for the foreseeable future, FedEx Field is your home. You have to go in there and figure out how you can get this to. You're not going to get it first class, but you got to at least get it to average. It's not even average right now for when we're talking about player things, amenities for them, amenities for the people. It's a whole mess. It's not just you have to find real football people, a real GM to make decisions. You have to make of course you have to put your stamp on, but it's so many other things. Of course, a new stadium is going to fix a lot of this, but there's so many other things that you have to deal with walking into that door. And one thing about what Magic Johnson knows how to do is win. What Magic Johnson knows is first class because he played with the Lakers. He knows what first class is supposed to be like. So if he walks in that building and they asking him opinion on things going to change in a skip. Because it don't matter he hasn't played football. He's been in a professional locker room, a professional setting. He knows how things are supposed to be, how they're supposed to go, what the atmosphere is supposed to be like. You know what I'm saying? So you get somebody like that in there with a willing owner that's willing to spend money, and what is the date on a new Commander Stadium? Is it what, 20? We talking about 28? 27?
I think it's 2027.
27. Okay, so you still for the next 4 seasons, you got to make FedEx something. So that's a major issue for me right there. Whoever takes this over has to figure out how to make FedEx Field not laughable, not a toilet bowl. That's what they have to do. Then they have to figure out that rest of the rest of that report card. Why are these players given a why are we weren't the Commanders the 32nd rated team on that report card? Yeah.
Yep.
That's not acceptable. You know what I'm saying? For a team that maybe if you got a Aaron Rodgers here could probably go to an NFC championship because they have a really, really great defense and some offensive weapons. So you got to figure that out and go from there. But I like the Magic, that he's on a part of, a bid. Would love to see him come down here. He already has I mean, he has ties in Several City, but he had ties here with the Magic Johnson Theater, so he already familiar with. He already been on the ground around here.
And
So,
then the Starbucks.
Yeah,
and the Starbucks, yep. So I just think that attitude, like Ben said, you talking about Magic Johnson, you know, he'll have that whole DC panel smiling, cheesing. They be ready to go to RFK themselves and start disassembling and rebuilding that thing. So
agreed.
we'll
And
see.
So I couldn't have. I think the only thing that would have made that easier is if, like, you decide to call me John Stockton and I called you Karl Malone because you ran right into the pick and roll and the setup that I was looking for. So today's biggest topic on a lot of the shows was, if you were the owner, what would your first two things be? And B, you just knocked the two things I said out of the box. I said the first two things this ownership group has to do when they walk in this door is day one has to be the experience. You have to create an experience and an atmosphere um, that's second to none. Like, that gets you back to the days where we were one of the premier franchises in this league. And maybe I was too young that I didn't know that the French fries and all that might not have been on point when it was at RFK, but they tasted damn good. So you got to get back to that point where the fans understand and enjoy the concessions first and foremost. They got to have the experience. I think one of the things I always tell people about Nats Park was Nats Park is just about the experience. Nats Park they gave my son one of the best first game baseball experiences ever, and I can never repay anybody in that building with any amount of cash for what they did. Now, the only bad thing is my son just isn't a big sportsman. But if he was, that would have been a seminal moment. That day right there would have stuck with him for the rest of his life. Unfortunately, he liked Pokemon. He liked Dragon Ball Z. So he ain't got that moment. That ain't sitting there. That's way in the back of his mind. But the experience is first and foremost. Second is the facilities. Like, they got 2 turf fields at Ashburn that haven't been used since God knows when. And, like, you got to put that in the building plans and expand that building and make that an NFL building. It's a damn shame when you got kids coming in from Clemson, Alabama, Auburn, even Maryland. They got better practice facilities than what you got as a pro team. That's their problem. Their problem is their facilities have not been invested in. It took for Shanahan to get here for us to even get a bubble. Like, you should have had a bubble. Like, these are things that for some reason this group didn't take into account, or not this group, but this guy didn't take into account. And, like, we're sitting here on the back end of it. Instead of paying yourself $10 million, if you're throwing that $10 million just into the building, you get better facilities. It's just amazing to me that, like, what I grew up watching and, like, what we see is where it is right now in this moment and in this space. And the first two things that gotta happen. I don't care about Major Tuddy. I don't even care about the team name. You gotta give us an experience.
I'm gonna say something. I'm gonna say a few things. Number one, you said something about the fields at Redskin Park. Those are your 4 outdoor fields at Redskin Park.
Right.
You got a turf field and 3 grass fields. And they look like it's nothing been done to 2 of those grass fields since Gibbs 1.0. They normally use the bubble. And that's cool. However, do I want to leave Redskin Park? No, but Redskin Park needs is it even still called Redskin Park? It's still called Redskin Park.
No, it's like MedStar Health Facility or something like that.
Okay, Redskin Park. I don't want to leave Redskin Park because it's home. It's been home since what, 71? Cool.
You got to get out of that. You got to get past that, out of that, because
Absolutely.
The kicker, here's the biggest problem that I personally feel is going to be their biggest obstacle is the players are so used to being in Ashburn, out in Virginia with the good schools, that if you put this in PG County and put the facility in PG County, unless PG upgrade their schools, these guys are not going to want to be sending their kids to the PG county middle schools and the high schools. So that's going to be another issue for this whole stadium process where we build the facilities, and that no one's really thinking about is like where these kids going to go to school.
Well,
I mean, it almost makes Virginia the leading candidate just because a lot of these guys are already out there and they're comfortable with the school systems.
true.
And just think, you got these guys that live out there and
Right.
their home games. Guess where they got to drive for their home games? They got to get back.
You busting up to what the Gaylord at the National Harbor, laying there for the night, and then going to your game, and then all of a sudden you got a 2-3 hour drive to go home because you got to get out of the park.
Yep.
And what's crazy is back in the day when they were playing at RFK, they actually used to stay at the airport out at Dulles. It was a hotel out there, and
But
they
that's
would go
also
near the
different for
RFK.
winning. When
You
is
said
the
what?
difference? Winning is the difference.
Oh yeah. Now, something that one of y'all said, you talk about RFK, and they've been come 2027, it'll be 30 years at FedEx Field. 30 flipping years, man. They spent, and if they make it to 2027, they'll have spent almost as much time at FedEx Field as they did at RFK. It's crazy. And that's just the time perspective that I wanted to put in there. However, you say the two things that I would do, I would secure a land deal and try to get me a new stadium. Because this stadium
You got
stuff,
land.
yeah, you got land down in Virginia. See,
No, you got
Here's
land in
nothing.
Virginia, and don't forget you got the PG2 part up here. So
what
see this
PC2 part?
So they have land around PG.
BGM, Oxon Hill area.
No. Up by so adjacent to where they are in FedEx, there's still some land up there, like with the old PG Mall. I mean, not PG. Is it PG Mall?
Landover.
Landover Mall, where they got some land up there that they still own. So the kicker is going to be, and this is why I think also part of this process is going a little bit slower, is these guys are trying to figure out and strategize. Like, once we get this, where do we go? Do we go and do this Landover project? Do we stay in Virginia and do a Virginia project? Or do we go into DC? And yes, the first 3 or 4 years we'll steal the world. You know what I'm saying? We'll win over Rome. We'll win the mob. But will that be enough to make us sustainable?
Here's the thing. You go to Virginia and put a stadium in Virginia. You're killing your commute. You're killing your diehards because it's like, I don't know if you ever heard the story that Dwayne Thomas told. He said, I like playing in the Cotton Bowl. When we moved into Texas Stadium, it went from being this rah-rah atmosphere to, oh, bravo, good play. That's what you're going to get out in Ashburn. You're not going to get that, even though you really don't get it now, but you're not going to get that diehard fan.
You don't get that now, and that's dope. You can't put that blame on the Commanders.
No,
that's every NFL team, and that's every NBA team. You don't get your diehards can't afford these tickets.
Exactly. And when you put it out, and let me ask you a question.
But you got to go even beyond that, though, KG.
I don't know. I'm building up.
No. I'm gonna help you out because I think I know where you're going. But when I go home, I hate driving my son home after a Redskins home game because I run into, especially when I'm on certain sides of the Beltway, I run into that whole Virginia traffic leaving the stadium. Yeah. And it's a nightmare on sometimes. So, like, I think people, for the 8 to 10 days that they're going to be going out of Virginia, they're actually kind of over gauging the process and overestimating, I should say, the process, because a lot of the people that's going to be going out there are the people already in Virginia.
Exactly.
So they're going to be taking back roads or whatever. So you're not really going to have this massive traffic jam.
No,
but you
will
will
that's
have
not what I'm saying. That's
okay,
not
go
what I'm
ahead.
saying. What I'm saying is,
I apologize.
what about Joe the fan? Joe the fan that live up there in Congress Heights, Southeast. You know, Joe the fan got a house up there. He got to go all the way to Ashburn because he got season tickets. What about that guy?
Could care less.
He
That's
won't
not.
do it.
That's what I'm trying to tell you. That's not an NFL thing. That's an American thing.
Yeah.
They
Right.
don't care about the little people. If
That's
you
the
pay
problem.
attention, if you pay attention to where that traffic is going when it leaves FedEx Field, it's going into the good part of Montgomery County and it's going to good parts of Virginia.
That's true.
Okay, and you don't get me wrong, you got your locals to go. And the crazy thing is, those people don't want the stadium in their backyard at all.
And that's my second point. You can't put another stadium in Landover, okay? Because you muffed the punt the first time. Because when they built FedEx Field, you thinking, all right, we got FedEx Field here. You put some restaurants and sports bars over in Landover Mall. You know, that revitalized the mall. So you can go from pre-gaming at the mall, walk over to the stadium, or you can tailgate and everything. You can't even do none of that. Any of the things that we used to do as football fans, you can't even do at FedEx anymore. You can't tailgate. You can't walk up to the stadium from the mall because the mall's gone. Don't put another stadium in this area.
So part of that was miscalculation. Part of that was the Dan Snyder effect. So I don't know when you stopped or started going, but early on, they had the commuter buses that would take fans from wherever and bring them over to the stadium. And then they made people walk. And then they charged you at one point. Then they made you walk. But that was all post Cook.
Yeah. And then James might have pissed off Metro. Metro and the bus.
Right. So the problem was, like, Dan alienated so many people from the beginning once he came and took over that he didn't care about the fan experience. And that's what hurt this program. And I think that's why, like, when we talk, I mean, there's a generation or two generations of kids that will never be Commanders fans because, in that stretch, they failed to have a quarterback or a star player that like took their hearts and made them want to root for this franchise. And then the other part is what we kind of talking about now is that experience has been so bad or we've been priced out of that experience so much that we can't get back in right now. And that's a struggle.
And see, that's what this that's what this team has represented for years. It's an everyday Joe's team. This is not, the CEO that runs Giant can go to a Redskin game, Commanders game, football team game, and sit with the people, and you never know he's a CEO because he's a fan. He comes in there dressed like a fan. You move that team to Ashburn, you're going to change the whole atmosphere. You're going to change the complexion. There's not going to be anything that represents the fandom of this team. Now, I'm not saying, of course, I want him to move to DC because DC is the logical option, especially if you redevelop RFK. I did a whole article and I wrote an article. I did a show on it. You're sitting on top of a metro station. You're bringing jobs to the city. Huh?
I think you're sitting on top of 3. Stadium Armory. And then you still got Potomac Yard that's not too far away.
Potomac Avenue.
But yeah, Potomac Avenue not too far away. Yeah, it's not. And so you're sitting on top of a metro station. That brings money to Metro. That brings jobs to DC. But now you got those new people that live in that area now. Oh, I don't want a stadium in my backyard. Well, this is where the stadium was always been. And it's convenient. Where it is now, yeah, you made a metro station specifically for the stadium. BJ can attest to this. That damn walk from Morgan Boulevard up to the stadium. It's a killer. It's a goddamn killer. Like, you got to immediately get in the stadium and find something to eat. You got to find, look, I just got to sit down for a little bit. I need something sweet.
That's where I think, and I'm curious, because a person that I would love to see make a Washington comeback is Brian LaFemina. Somebody that I thought was putting this in the right direction, and he was actually showing that he cared about the fan experience. When he got here, the only problem was he worked for a petty owner and he worked for a petty GM who wanted to have the credit and the shine for themselves instead of like actually giving this guy credit or giving this guy the leash to do the job that he came here to do.
Who that sound
And
like?
I think that's
Who that sound like?
Oh, I mean, it is what it is. It's been Snyder the whole time.
No. But who acting that petty and wanting the credit for something that you had nothing to do with, that you hired the guy to do a job and you want the credit? Who that sound like? Who that sound like? It sounds like who he tries to be and who he's been trying to be for the last 20 some odd years. It sounds like fucking Jerry Jones.
Okay. I'm not gonna argue with you there, but I think like the whole goal for me right now is they gotta figure something out. And B Mitch says this all the time, like you gotta make people feel like they're getting something, even though they ain't getting nothing. And I don't know how that works.
You know how to do that?
Concessions, whatever you gotta do. I mean, Eric Mark is somebody that the Nats use, but maybe you gotta get a little bit better with the people that you entrust with these situations. I don't know. I don't know the correct fix, but I know it's got to get better. And you got to make it so that the people coming out aren't feeling stressed. Like the beauty of RFK wasn't the fact that RFK was easy to get into. RFK, we were winning, first and foremost. B, you could catch the Metro to RFK. If you couldn't catch the Metro, you was catching the cab. Because there's so many stories of people saying, oh, what we used to do is we'd meet in Eastern Market, somewhere, get brunch, and then come to the stadium. Well, imagine those people going down to Ted's Bulletin. Those people going over to Yardbird by Potomac Avenue. Those people going all these different places, getting something to eat, and then taking a taxi or Uber over the the new RFK. That's the experience. Like the experience is the experience from here on out. And that's going to be the key to this whole process.
I think one of the other things that is killing the fan experience is them trying to make these mega 80, 90,000, 100,000 seat stadiums. You need to if you make another RFK, it need to be 40 or 50,000.
Well, RFK was 56.
Yeah, 54. And that's what I'm saying. You make it. You of course you're gonna have all the amenities and stuff, and you have your standing pavilion where you can be at the stadium and be somewhere near, but have nice big TVs. But it needs to be 45. It needs to be 45, about 45,000 at the most. And you make it. Of course, you got to get back to winning on the field, but you make it to where there is a list again, not a fake dance, not a created list, but a list where people dying to get into this stadium. That this is the ticket, But it all starts on the field. But he can't win on the field if it's dysfunctional from the top. So it's just you get the new owner in here and you have to erase 30 years of nonsense. You have to erase 30 years of nonsense and a losing mentality and a bad feel, a bad stadium experience, loyal fans that have completely cut this team off and say I'll never watch them again. I'm tired. Midnight Rider said it earlier, the people that Dan Snyder alienated, charging the walk, charging to this, losing the Metro buses. That wasn't Dan Snyder. That was one of these dumbass fans that felt like Metro should have been charging public. They can't charge what they want to charge to work the stadium. So that's a whole nother story. But it's a lot. It's a lot for a new owner to come in and take over. The crazy thing is you have pieces on the football team that actually make some noise if you get a quarterback and, maybe make a couple other moves. You're not that far away. It's like, I think they're a couple of steps behind the Jets. The Jets is probably the most complete football team in the NFL that does not have a quarterback. That team is loaded. They get the right quarterback. They coming out the AFC. Mark my words. They get the right quarterback. They're coming out the AFC. I don't know if Aaron Rodgers is that guy because he likes to choke a lot, but I think the Commanders are right behind them. and they have to figure out, that portion of it as far as quarterback. But it's just like you get this team, and it's like you take over a team of Madden and you go through everything's red. You owe money. You got salary cap penalties. You got players disgruntled wanting trades. You got your concessions are bad. Everything's bad. Everything's bad. you have to damn near go 17-0 to get it back in the green. But it's just it's going to be a process. This isn't going to be done overnight. But if you get the right owner, and like I said, Magic Johnson would be, man, I'm telling you, he would. You talking about a boost, a kick in the ass of morale for this fan base? You see Magic Johnson at a Commanders press conference. Yeah, that's that. If something can inject, if something can turn around the fans, the loyal fans over the years that turned their back on this team for obvious reasons, for good reasons, that would be it. I think that's what you need. And the NFL, trust me, this ain't a fair process. The NFL's looking at that. The NFL's looking at that, and they know where this Commanders franchise is, as far as morale, as far as the fans, as far as all the scandals and stuff Dan Snyder's been in the rest of the team. So they're looking at that. They're gonna put the best situation together for them. It's not gonna be a fair bid. You're not gonna, it's not gonna be back and forth. They already probably know who's gonna own the damn team.
I agree.
I think that's why Josh Harris is the name that we keep hearing the most, is because he's done this fan experience. I think the Sixers are moving into a new building in 2031. He's a guy that has experience with ownership. Then you throw in Magic, a guy that is the PR guy that can make people love you, what's going on. I think that's all part of the process. And for this team, something has to happen right away. And you guys, we keep talking about the process, the experience, and everything else. But I think there's a group. There's probably about, I'm not gonna say 20,000 people. I'm gonna say there's 30% of the fan base that goes to games. There's about 25 to 30% that just refuse to give Dan Snyder their money. And I think the second this team gets sold and you don't see Dan Snyder's name on this building or on this program, no matter what you felt about the name Commanders, I think there's going to be an onslaught and a barrage of people buying Commanders gear because now they feel comfortable supporting their home team when they didn't before, when this guy they felt was a liar, was a womanizer, or and all these things are allegedly. So let me go back and say that with the capper is like these are all things that turn people away from this franchise. So I think like one thing that we're going to miss is that that there's a group in this fan base that's going to just come back just because Dan is gone. So that's you gonna win that. You get that bump naturally. The bump that you're really now concentrating on, and what everybody should be having their fingers crossed and hoping for is whether that number is 30 to 40 or 25 to 30, but whatever that number of fan base that got turned off because the Redskins name is no longer on the side of the helmet. That's the group you got to figure out. And I would love for somebody to be smart enough to have focus groups and have conversations because you got to let them know that you can't get the name back. And you can't. And as much as we love the name, we can't get it back. So I need you to get to a spot where you're comfortable with us not being called the Redskins. And I don't even think you should go with a name change. Like somebody was talking about Red Wolves. My cousins, Eric's talking about Red Wolves and Stadium Howl and all that. That's nice, but now you're on your fourth name in 6 years. And like now you're buying more gear and you're doing more stuff. And then at what point do the fans feel like you're abusing them because now you got them changing gear again? And you have 2 or 3 of the best sets of uniforms in the league. As much as that black and gold don't look right, you win 10 games 2-3 years or 3 out of 4 years, that black and gold gonna look real good.
Everybody know that.
That cranberry and white, if you want to call it cranberry and white, it's gonna look real good. That I don't know, red and gold or burgundy and gold, whatever you want to call it, it's gonna look real good. Like, I think fans were so obnoxious about all of that stuff where they wanted, like, at one point, I think I felt bad for Dan Snyder's team because fans were like, we want this. We want a connection to the past. We don't want a complete overhaul. We don't want to feel like an expansion team. But then we had, when stuff got put in place, it was like, oh, why you do that? Because now it's too close to what we used to have. Oh, we got a fight song. It sounds just like the old fight song. We shouldn't have done that. But you asked for them to keep a fight song. You know what I'm saying? Like, the Jokers had selective amnesia in the process. You know, oh, we want the colors to be the same. Well, all they did was modernize the colors. And if you're a jersey person like me, jerseys are great. If you're a traditionalist that like that burgundy and gold, then you're not going to feel this. Like, it's so many things in this process that I think, like, the fans just abused their power. And they made the experience worse than it really should have been because they didn't get exactly what they want. So for everybody that wanted Red Wolves, they shitted on the name Commanders because they wanted Red Wolves. Like, we just didn't have an open mind in this process.
I agree.
And one thing, my bad, KG. One thing that, you know, I said this, you know, during the season when the team start losing, and, you know, and I said it last season too, and I probably said it season before. You can make amends to your fans. You can go out into your local community, not to Ashburn, not to Potomac. You can go to Landover. You can go to Capitol Heights. You can go to Northeast. You can go to Southeast. Here are tickets to the game. Free. Come to the game. It's ways you can win your fans back. There's ways you can win your fans back. I thought once they changed the name to the football team, I would have left it there. I would never have changed it back. And Ben, I see you shaking your head, but like you said, a team name change is traumatic. It's a traumatic process for your fans. The other thing they can do, if they do change the name, which I would recommend, you can be like, whoever bought Commanders gear, you bring it to the team store, we swap you out for free. That's one way you can do it. These people had the money to do it. You know, if you agree like Dan Snyder, you don't do those things. Okay, but it's ways to win the fan base back, and I'm hoping that whoever comes in with the next regime with ownership it knows that where this team was, the glory is of this team as one of the top NFL franchises. Now, we're not talking about, you know, at their best they were mid-tier, you know, Detroit Lion type stuff. We're not talking about that. We talk, and it's I'm not trying to like shit on the Detroit Lions fans, but that franchise has never been as high as the Commanders had. They haven't been as high as Buffalo has, and Buffalo lost 4 Super Bowls. That you know what I'm saying? This was a cream de la creme franchise at one point, and is now bottom of the league in everything. And that's a lot to come in and try to mop up. Like, you don't even, like, you're mopping the ocean at this point, you know, and you're wringing the bucket out in the ocean. You're just going back to mopping the ocean. And you got to come in and you got to buy 90,000 Sponge Daddy. What are those things called? Sponge. Yeah, say it again.
Talking about Flex Seal?
You need some Flex Seal. You need the Sponge Daddies. You need to soak up this water. You need a whole bunch of stuff. It's just a bad situation. Whoever comes in got to understand they got a lot of damage to control to do. And the crazy thing is, it's not just with the fans. It's not just with the players, but with the media also. With the media also. The media has had to feel the wrath of the Dan Snyder regime, the Dan Snyder tenure. So you got to repair relationships everywhere. So I know that's going to happen. I know it is, and I know
I think that's the easiest job
with the media.
Yeah, that's the easiest job.
Hey, it would be easy for them. They invite us in there. I'd be Commanders I have Commander toenail paint on.
So you said a great thing. You said something about, if you did a name change and you wore Commander's gear, we exchange your gear out. That's something the Baltimore Ravens did. What was that? The year that Ray Rice had his situation?
Yes.
And they said, you come in, you trade in your Ray Rice jersey, get whatever jersey you want. That's forward thinking. This is, I'm taking care of my fan base. I got a product, you know what I'm saying? I'm trying to stand beside it. You know what I'm saying? My man Frank Lucas said it's Pepsi. It's a brand, and I stand by it. That's what we need whoever this next guy is to do and come in here with. Is I'm standing by a brand. We're a service brand. We're taking care of our people. Whatever you want to do or whatever we need to do to get you back is what we're going to do. Because if we don't do that, it's going to be an issue. Like, you got to do a whole lot of hand holding, kissing babies. You know what I'm saying? It's got to be a lot of those moments. And you can't be scared of those moments, because if you are, then you're not going to win this fan base back. It's like Proximo told my guy, you know what I'm saying? Maximus. He said the only way you can do it is to win back Rome.
And Eric, I agree, but I don't agree, because
no, he's absolutely right.
But let me tell you why I don't agree. That's what I'm saying. I agree, but I don't agree, because the bar was so high, and you had us three know, and hardcore fans listening. This team is a part of your heartbeat. And when you see that decline just keeps going down, it just breaks you. And you have people, and Ben made a good point earlier, that won't support the team because Snyder owns it. But you also have a percentage of people that will never support this team again because of what they've been through with this team in the last 10, 15 years. You have that also. It's dangerous. I think that's why it's dangerous that the bar is so low, just like we talked about Georgetown. You show me this gold carrot. We've been following this gold carrot in the 80s to now eating out of the trash. That's basically what you're doing with watching Georgetown. It's basically what you're doing following the Commanders. You're eating out the trash now. When you were in the restaurant laughing at the people outside in the rain, begging for food. that was this franchise at one point. Inside the restaurant, at the white table, being served 7-course meals, getting your feet massaged underneath the table. You got a waiter massaging one massaging your feet, one sucking your toes, and you eating good. You eating good. Now, and y'all in the restaurant laughing at the homeless people outside, and now y'all are the homeless people looking in, watching them people get their toes sucked on while they eating steak tartare. It's a flip. It's a bad flip. It's a bad flip, because a lot of these fans have resentment. A lot of Burgundy and Gold fans have a lot of resentment, and I don't even think an ownership change is going to help that.
And Eric say it's been 25 plus years since his team's heyday. At this point, we'll take change any way we can get it. New ownership will have a few years of leeway to make the difference, and I think it will be a few years before they turn on them. It's
a 3 to 5 year window that this team has to maximize, and those things that they maximize are going to be fan experience. It's going to be getting the stadium deal in place, and then the other part is going to be, it's literally going to be what you guys have talked about. It's taking care of the fans. It's showing the fans that, hey, you know what? This was done this way before we got here. We're going to try to take care of you. And if you see a program where buses start coming into FedEx and you're taking fans from the Metro to the thing, then that's what it's going to be. And it's going to be a study. And I've seen I've seen two things. I've seen a group of guys say, you got to kick out everybody that was here during the Snyder era and start anew. But I think if you give the people that are here the opportunity just to be who they are, I think you're going to have a better opportunity, because you've got good people here. Their problem is they've always been stymied by Snyder and his fix it after the fact. Whether it was Sean Taylor's urinal ceremony, whether it was the Dick Sporting Goods ceremony, whatever it is that they had, those were all things trying to patch band-aids on a gunshot wound. And that's where the issue comes in. It's this is going to become different the second they show you that they have a modicum of compassion.
Yeah. And Eric said day one, watch how many fans come back just because that's going to happen. He also says keep them will be the challenge they face.
Yep.
And I get it. But one thing you said, and both of y'all have said it, you got to listen to the fan base. That's what people don't understand. You put together, when you're running a company and you have a consumer, you have to listen to your consumer. Who's consuming your product the most? This is who I need to listen to. Because this group of fans say, well, we had a bad experience. And I said this the last show we were talking about FedEx and things. On Madden, you gotta listen to the consumer. Oh, well, I don't like the price of potato chips because it seems a little high. Adjust it. Me personally, hey, bring a golden skillet in the FedEx field. I guarantee you'll sell more food from golden skillet. But that's just me. I'm just a small percent. You got other guys, you got other women, men that want other things. You have to listen to your fan base. But if they don't listen to the fan base, we're going to be right back where we started at. Right back. So we got to wrap this thing up. Final thoughts, gentlemen. I know you said you had something, Midnight Rider.
Well, we kind of just took care of it. Because my question was, it was going to be what's the one thing this team has to do to get people back in the building? And we kind of discussed this in our process, but I really feel like there's a window that this team is going to have to operate in, where they're going to have to just understand that we're recovering, we're fixing. We gotta put band-aids here. We gotta throw a cast on here. You gotta give this person a boot, and when you embrace that. That's the difference. The other thing I want to see this ownership group embrace is talking. Like there's like one thing I give Bisciotti credit about is Bisciotti will at the end of the season he'll have the end of year press conference. He'll talk to the fan base, and then the next time you hear from him is at the end of the next season. I'm not asking you to go out here and be on Grant and Danny every week and talk to Russell and Medhurst every 2 weeks and be on the Craig Hoffman show. Like, I don't need you to run the circuit. I just need you to have that one time where you address this as a whole, tell us what's going to happen. And then after that, the GM does the talking during the off season, the head coach does the talking during the regular season, and we're good to go.
I would love to see Ron Rivera have. I would love to see Ron Rivera have his own show on Fridays like they used to when he first got here.
They still do a show, but it's on that NBC Sports Watching. He still does a coach's show. It's not on NBC. Here's what I want to change because. So I'm gonna let you go. I'm gonna let you have this after this. This is my last topic. My last point. My alma mater, Archbishop Carroll, we won the DC state championship or whatever. And you know who recognized them? The Baltimore Ravens. The Baltimore Ravens had a day or had something during halftime where they recognized that team. Guess who didn't recognize them? The Washington Commanders. That's the problem. Washington has to start taking back what's in their community, what's in their fan base. Because what they've done is because they've been so based out of Ashburn or whatever, they only recognize the Virginia schools. They don't recognize the Maryland and the the DC part. And that's the way you losing kids. You're losing kids in PG County. You know what I'm saying? If you go into an Exxon in PG, depending on how far out in PG you go, it's a lot of purple and gold and black. And you guys start taking some of that territory back if you're going to have or sustain what you want as a fan base. I think that's the narrow-mindedness of who we had in place, is they didn't care about that because they thought, oh, the Commonwealth, and we're going to build a stadium in the Commonwealth because of Bruce, and Bruce wasn't getting it done. Bruce was too busy drinking Coors Light. Allegedly.
You said something earlier about I think it was either you or BJ about getting a real GM. So we're not fans of Martin Mayhew?
No,
absolutely not.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I need see. Go ahead, BJ. No, because we want to say
my bad. If like I said, man, if I'm the new owner, I take everybody's hand, and when they look at their hand in hand, I'm gonna have pink paint on my hand. When they look at their hand after they shake my hand, they look down and be like, "What does this mean?" Leave. That's what it means. Leave. Get out. Nice meeting you. Get out. And I'm gonna have my assistant with a paintbrush. I'm gonna like dip it again and rub it across my hand again. And I'm gonna just go down the line. Nice to meet you. See your hand. Goodbye. Peace. Get out. And it's real talk. Like this is a dysfunctional franchise. In the front office is dysfunctional. Dan Snyder or not. And look, I know Dan Snyder has a really, really bad cloud over a lot of people. A lot of people are puppets, but you got to get out of that because you don't know how damaged these people are. You don't know if they're going to break out of that shell. I don't want to take that chance. This is what have you done for me now business? The quicker we've seen these franchises turn around in 2 seasons. The end of the season, you can start telling, oh man, this is a whole different unit. This is a whole different team. So once that Dan Snyder cloud leaves, and you gotta get rid of. Unfortunately for the people, it's not fair to them because of the situation they're in. But yeah, they got to get their start somewhere else. And I need people in here that are ready to go, ready to make a change, ready to operate under some sanity and go. Everybody has to go. I don't see one person in that front office that stays. And it's not because of them. I want to make that perfectly clear. It's not because of them. It's because of who they were attached to. They have to go.
And Eric Wheeler say, Ben, what did I tell you? New ownership should install a traditional football hierarchy. Owner, president, GM, coach. No one person holds multiple positions.
Agreed.
I can't argue. I cannot argue.
So I don't care what my team president is, but I need my GM to have like a couple pimples still on his face from puberty because he's a math genius. He went to Princeton. He can crunch numbers. Like I want this dude to break this joint down to I need that up and coming guy that's going to take you to the next level. Like I don't care about the president is going to be a figurehead to a certain extent. Because he's going to let the GM do his job.
The president handles the business side, doesn't handle the football side.
Right, exactly. And no offense to Jason Wright, but it's been real, homie.
Damn.
I wouldn't even shake his hand. I would just paint him. like the Nickelodeon slime drop. I'd be like, Jason, stand right here. And it would just drop pink paint on him. Like, get out.
God damn!
I can't do him like that, but just because
Arnold Schwarzenegger, get out.
Only reason I can't do that is because I think he was handcuffed a whole bunch in his time. So you gotta let him walk out with some kind of like keeping his head up. I don't know what the Louis Riddick. Maybe because
I'm just being an asshole at this point. Because like I said, that Dan Snyder cloud is real. And a lot of people are there. They're walking on eggshells, and underneath the eggshells are 45 caliber bullets ready to go off. So, I'm telling you, it's going to be a whole different atmosphere at Commanders Post Park, whatever it's called.
But
the
why are we
war
so
zone.
confident in Lewis Reddick?
Well, and that's something I
Last
wanted
time Eric Schaefer was here, I don't know.
And Ben, what you said about getting a young GM, I don't agree with that. You don't necessarily have to have the young GM. If you could get a football mind in here, that's where that guy that can crunch numbers becomes an assistant GM, because he might not be ready to make those football moves, but those numbers are so important, because you get these guys just like baseball that crunch these numbers and put these teams together, and all of a sudden, these analytics, you win in football games on the field. But
so
you got to know where to look for those guys at.
So Buffalo, you got what? Eric Schoen, or is it somebody else that's your GM?
Bean
Maybe
is the GM.
Is your GM or the Giants?
Yeah, Schoen is the Giants GM.
Okay, so see, that's what I'm looking for, a guy that's been behind the guy, because Schoen got hired because he was behind your guy in Buffalo.
Yep, exactly.
I want that guy. I want see the problem that this franchise has had is they don't go to the successful places and hire somebody else. They'll go outside of the building. They'll go outside of the organization, outside of other organizations, and find somebody. I want to find the guy that is sitting at the right hand. Like if Jesus is a savior, who was his right hand? Whoever's at his right hand, that's who I want. Because I want him to be the second coming. Like, I want to get as close to that as possible. And I'm dead serious, man. We need that type of thought process. And that's the one beauty I think we get from but Schaefer also may have some other things. So don't forget, he got let go in the midst of that whole Snyder brouhaha.
Had his hands in some things.
Yeah, buddy. Oh, he had some pictures of some things, but I ain't gonna go there. Allegedly. So that's just the only reason why I don't think Schaefer's the guy to come back. I think you got to go brand new.
Well, we need to put a pin in this because we've hit the hour and 30 mark. This will be something we can come back and we'll start the show off on Thursday with hierarchy and structure for the new Washington Commanders. And you know what? Here's a homework assignment. Come back on Thursday, structure the front office the way that you would.
I knew you was going to say that.
Because the way I would structure it is totally different. But I mean, hey, I'm cool. My structure is totally different.
I know one of my. I'll say that content.
Oh man. Well,
so you Darvish has entered the World Baseball Classic. I think it's 3-1 Japan. Mookie Betts, Mike Trout, Paul Goldschmidt, and Nolan Arenado the next up. And I think it's still 3-1 Japan.
Damn.
And I think it's the 8th inning. I'm waiting for them to move this this graphic. Yep, 8th inning.
Oh Lord, it's getting late.
3-1, no outs. Arenado's up at bat. He's the 4-hitter going against you, Darvish. Let's go, USA.
Well, until next time on Thursday, for the boss BJ, the Midnight Rider, I'm the big guy KG. Can't say we don't do no overtime, but damn it, we did it. We are out of here. Remember to like, subscribe, smash that button, man. All platforms.
Make it do what it do, baby.